One of the most interesting player arcs in basketball is when a guy experiences his prime well before the typical age of a peaking player. Guys like Blake Griffin, Tyreke Evans, and Dwight Howard experience the prime of their careers in their early 20s rather than their late 20s. Because of this, some younger fans may have never been aware just how excellent that player actually was during his prime. My favorite example of this is without a doubt Chris Paul. This eventual Hall of Famer is about to enter his 21st season in the NBA. If you ask me, his prime was definitely around 2008 to 2009, when he was a member of the New Orleans Hornets. So think about it. Even though this guy is an active player today, unless you're at least 28 years old, you never really witnessed a prime Chris Paul performing at a high level on a nightly basis. And as someone who did, let me tell you, this guy was different. Chris Paul in his early 20s had me convinced that he would end up as one of the greatest players of all time. We all know Chris Paul today as a savvy veteran with an extremely high basketball IQ. But back then, he still had that, but it was mixed with amazing athleticism, quickness, and speed. He was mesmerizing, both offensively and defensively. During that era, as a Lakers fan, we always struggled at defending elite point guards. So every time we played against him, I knew CP3 was about to put up a monstrous stat line. In the 2007 to 2008 season alone, the Hornets played against Kobe and the Lakers 4 times. In their first matchup, he dropped 19 points, 21 assists, and 3 steals. In their second matchup, he had 32 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. In their third matchup, he had 27 points, 17 assists, and 4 steals. And in their final matchup of the season, he had 15 points, 17 assists, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals. Maybe now, you guys are starting to see why I thought CP3 was going to win the MVP that year instead of Kobe Bryant. In that season alone, he had 21 games with at least 15 assists, and 10 games with at least 5 steals. He was doing things that I didn't even know was possible in that era of basketball. And remember, he was doing all of this at 22 years old. One of his best nights was in a 2-point victory over Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns, where he dropped 42 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and 8 steals, while making 55% of his shots. Think about this for a second. A 22-year-old went into Phoenix and outperformed a recent 2-time MVP winner with one of the most impressive stat lines that we've ever seen from the point guard position. We were all stunned by the thought of what he could become, because considering his age, it was completely fair to assume that he was only getting better from here on out. If you had asked me in 2008 to make a prediction about Chris Paul, I probably would have told you that the GOAT debate for the point guard position would eventually be between him and Magic Johnson specifically. On top of all of this, CP3 was clutch. There was no injury history at this time, no evidence of him choking in the playoffs or anything like that. He had the stats, he had the playmaking, he had the defensive tenacity, and we all saw him as a killer, who could potentially have multiple championship trophies in his future. Now, he basically maintained that same level of production in the 2008 to 2009 season, and was quickly establishing himself as a big game performer, as he was seemingly always having his best performances against other Western Conference contenders. In a victory against the Mavericks, he had 31 points, 17 assists, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals, on a remarkable 73% shooting from the field. In a matchup with the Lakers, he had 21 points, 16 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals, on 50% shooting. In a victory against OKC, he poured in 29 points, 16 assists, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals, on 65% shooting. Then again, against the Suns, he dropped 29 points, 16 assists, and 7 rebounds on 45%. Within a span of 2 weeks, he came dangerously close to achieving the historic quadruple-double, twice. Against the Mavericks on January 12th, he had 33 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds, and 7 steals on 50% shooting. And then, 12 days later, against the 76ers, he had 27 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds, and 7 steals on 54% shooting from the field. I say this with complete conviction. We never saw a better version of Chris Paul than what we witnessed at the age of 22 and 23. Now, some speculate why that's the case, and might suggest that he didn't have the greatest conditioning or work ethic, but I really don't agree with that idea. Personally, I think it might have to do with the fact that he tore his meniscus in February of 2010. His recovery time was during the 2010 All-Star break, and this is what some of the game's greatest stars had to say about him in his absence.
He just doesn't have any weaknesses, man. I mean, he's tough, he's hard-nosed. He's a modern-day Isaiah Thomas.
He's everything, a coach dreams, because he can, not only play, but he can lead a team. He's a coach out there on the floor.
He's, for me, the best point guard in the game. His ability to score so effectively and obviously set people up is amazing.
He's just got the heart of a champion. He just doesn't back down from anything. You can say he has a small man's complex, because he just has a chip on his shoulder.
He's a winner, so he's got all the attributes, and he's going to have a phenomenal career.
Now get this. The Hornets were in the midst of a playoff rush when he tore his ligament. So because of this, they kind of rushed CP3 back into action after a small rehab process.
Tough, really tough, because I love to play all day, every day anyway, so as soon as possible. Doc said 4 to 6 weeks, so I'm just trying to do my rehab as much as possible.
Hornets fans feel they deserve their man back soon. Chris Paul hopes to oblige sooner than later.
In total, he missed just about 6 weeks of playing time before he was back out there on the court. Now, these were his averages that season before the injury, and these were his averages that season after he returned from injury. As you can see, it was a night and day difference. I think this torn ligament in his knee and the rush to get him back out there on the court actually ruined much of his speed, quickness, and explosiveness. Based on what I saw, Chris Paul always seemed like a slower version of himself after the injury, and at the very least, the numbers seem to back this up. These were his averages at the age of 23 in the 2008 to 2009 season, which was his last full season before the injury. After Paul returned to the court, he would play at least 16 more seasons in the NBA, yet he would never again be a 20 points per game scorer. He would never again average at least 11 assists per game. He would never again average more than 2.5 steals. And he would never shoot at least 50% from the field over the course of a season. Sure, he was still elite, but he would never return to that mesmerizing GOAT point guard trajectory that he had in his early 20s. To put it simply, if you didn't see Chris Paul in his early years, then you never got to experience the real CP3. So what do you guys think? What would Chris Paul's legacy be today if he maintained the trajectory of his early years? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.